Are we ready?
I think
Well,
so.
good morning, everyone. Welcome to Primary and Elementary EdTech Tools for Hybrid Learning. We have Angie Kaltoff with us today. She's going to be your presenter, and I am the moderator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep an eye on the chat and make sure things are working fine for Angie. And so if you have questions or anything, please feel free to put them in the chat. And with that, I will let Angie introduce herself. I've known Angie for a few years now, back from when she was at St. Cloud Schools. And so I'm really pleased to be here with her today.
Okay, we will get started. Thanks, Mary.
Yep.
So like Mary said, I'm Angie. I have a new job. So if you have been coming to Best Prep for a while, I've been there for a handful of years. I started as an attendee, and then I was a tech integrationist. Then I went to the presenter role. So now I'm presenting today with my friend Becky, and you'll get to meet her in a second. But my new job, last year I was in Boston. I moved to Boston to chase my dream to work at Tufts University with the DevTech research group where Scratch Jr. was created and the Kibo robot. And that has been really where I've focused a lot of my time and energy the past few years, is on early childhood and elementary coding and computer science. And Boston was great, and I loved being there, but I realized how far Boston is when COVID hit, and it just wasn't super easy to get back to Minnesota to be around family. So I decided to say goodbye to Boston and come back to Minnesota. And I have a new job as product manager at Capstone, which is also a great company. So I'm very fortunate to have this new role. I feel grateful. And I'm in Minnesota, and they're a Minnesota company. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Capstone later, but I'm back in Minnesota. So I'm happy to be here and see everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I'll let Becky introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Becky Hansen. I am starting my 11th year in teaching, and I am an elementary computer science teacher. And I'm also a technology integration specialist. And during the spring, I did distance learning with a STEM newsletter and keeping the connection, and bi-weekly meetings with parents about lessons. And I'm glad to have you here.
So we would love to just get to know a little bit more about you if you have a chance in the chat. If you could let us know your name, the school you work at, and the position you're in. And then if you have any experience doing some elementary research projects, we'd love to know just a sentence or two about what you've done with research projects with elementary kids. If you have questions, if you have a cool project you want to share, just to give us some insight, because our whole presentation is going to be revolving around the inquiry-based research process and EdTech tools that we think align well with it. So I'm just watching the chat now as people are sharing. This is great, helpful, thank you. And I see some of my Laverne friends in here from past Best Prep workshops, conferences. So thanks for joining. Okay, let's get started. Go ahead, Becky.
Okay, so I met Angie just in the spring, back in February at Infosys Pathfinder Winter Institute. She taught the Kibo and Scratch Junior class, and it was an amazing presentation. And if you've never heard of Infosys, you should check it out, because they do a really good job of doing professional development with computer science. And this summer, last week, I was able to do it for free. So it was a great experience.
So the one that we did in February was in person, but the one she did last week was online. And I went 2 years ago as a teacher in person, and they work with Donors Choose. So if you're looking for professional development and in your district, it's up to you to fund your own PD. It was for me at that time. I was able to get a lot of it funded through Donors Choose and Infosys matching it. So we shared that with you because we want you to know a little bit about us and how we met. Becky's in Texas, by the way. We should say that. I don't know that we said that. She's in Texas, where most of us are in the Midwest. Yeah, but we had fun together a few months ago and decided we wanted to keep learning and sharing together. So if you like learning and want to connect with more people, check out Infosys Foundation's website. We have a link here, and we'll share a link to the presentation so you have access to it. So, like I mentioned before, we are going to look at the inquiry-based research process and talk about different EdTech tools that could help you along the way. And our goal is for not to give you shiny tool syndrome. So when I say shiny tool syndrome, to me, I think of conferences or webinars that I go to, and they share like 20 different cool things, and I'm like, oh, I have to try all 20 of those right away. And then I just consume myself in learning about these things and trying them. Our goal isn't to do that with you. Our goal is to tell you different tools that we think will help along the way, and then have you pick something to focus on after the session. So we'll get more into that. But I just wanted to share with you, it's kind of also prompted by when I was a tech integrationist in St. Cloud, I did a research project with a kindergarten classroom, and we used iPads. That was what we had. We had about 5 or 6 in the classroom. We did it as a station, and kids got to research different animals. And we had them go through the whole process, and I thought it was a pretty neat learning experience. And we did it using an app called Seesaw. That was our place to store everything. And I tested the kids at the beginning and at the end, as well as a different kindergarten classroom that didn't use Seesaw. They didn't use any kind of technology. And I found that kids who were able to create and share using Seesaw and some of these EdTech tools were able to remember more facts about animals than their peers in the next classroom. So since that small little action research project I did, I've always been digging deeper into how we can support kids and learning what they want to learn. If you have questions at any time, also feel free to put that in the chat, and then maybe Mary can help us tell us to stop if we skip over questions. So this is, go ahead, Becky. I'll stop talking.
So we want to know how your district or your school is planning the beginning of the school year. Are you going to be a hybrid? Are you going face-to-face? Will you be fully online? Go ahead and unmute yourself and share.
Surveys went out to families and staff, but there's no decision yet.
Yeah, in Minnesota, announcement will be made on Thursday. The governor.
Oh, okay. So for the whole state, the announcement's going to be made on, okay.
I think they're going to tell us the options that the schools can choose from, and then the schools will pick from those what they think is best for them.
Has anyone been having like listening sessions with their school board or principals to get feedback and talk through it?
We'll be having a meeting August 5th, according to our superintendent.
We've had quite a few emails as parents, and then also surveys and emails as teachers to get our input as far as like what we're comfortable with is safety and yeah, I'm from Minnesota too, Owatonna, Minnesota, and we, as far as I know, our district has been planning for all 3 scenarios, basically because we may even weave in and out throughout the year. Mm-hmm. And then I think that we're waiting for our governor to kind of, I don't know if he's going to make an entire state decision or if he's going to then tell us like each district can choose their own. We don't know, but we're waiting for, I think he's going to present on Thursday.
Yeah, I heard on the radio this morning that he is going to issue, they're going to issue guidance about what they think schools should do. And schools were required to plan for 3 eventualities, so.
Same thing here in Texas. Except for our governor already came out and let us know what he would like us to do.
Well, I think you start a little sooner, right?
Right, yes, we start here on August 18th.
Okay. Yeah, if I was still in the school district I was at, we would start right after Labor Day. Just head nod or chat in the chat. How about everyone else? Will you be starting after Labor Day? Yes or no, head nod or chat.
Or you can do give us a thumbs up in the reaction.
Oh. Start after. Okay. So we were just, this slide was just purely for us to understand who's in the room and what your situation is. As I've been doing a lot of research around or reading and wanting to understand where everyone's at and what distance learning is looking like for people, or hybrid learning, or learning during a pandemic. So many different ways to think about it or call it. I found this blog post on the Cult of Pedagogy by Jennifer Gonzalez, and it lays out 9 different things that we should think about how it should be different. Our instruction should be different, because if you're not face-to-face, doing what you plan to do in the classroom online may not go smooth. So I thought it was a helpful resource that I wanted to point out in our session today. So we already did ask what grades you teach, and then if you teach the research process and how, so we'll keep scrolling through the chat features. We should say too that when we planned our presentation, we thought we were using a different platform that let us conduct polls with a polls tool. So you'll see slides like this, where we'll just be asking instead of having a nice little chat feature. And I just took Becky's slides, so sorry, Becky.
It's okay.
We also want to share this. So playgrounds versus playpens. This is an analogy that Dr. Bears talks about in her book, Coding as a Playground, but also she has a TED Talk, and it's linked on the slides. And again, you'll be able to get the slide deck, so you'll be able to click on the link and watch it. But as you're thinking about interacting with technology and young children, what kind of learning environment are you creating? So if I say a playground, go ahead and type in the chat, what do you think of when you hear playground? You see kids on a playground. What do you see? You see that it's open. They're having fun. They're free to explore. They have choice. They're using their imagination. They get to make their own rules. They're interacting with each other. They have choice. Yep. Okay, so now if I say the word playpen, what do you think? Go ahead. Monitors and megaphones, yes. Okay, so playpen, stuck, no fun, alone, limited, restricted. Okay, trapped, isolated, yeah. And playpens have a purpose, right? For a little bit of time, it's a safe place to put kids if you need to go do something. So now let's think about playgrounds and playpens with technology. So think about the apps and the things your kids are doing when they're on a device. Is it more of a playground situation or more of a playpen situation? So that's something that once I found that research around this, it's something that I continue to think about as I lesson plan and create curriculum. Is it a playground or a playpen? And knowing that playpens are okay for a little bit of time. How often am I using playpen technologies, and what are they? So this is some research out of DevTech, out of Tufts University in Boston. It's the positive technological development. And if you look down the middle here, these are the different behaviors that we hope we see kids doing as they're engaging with technology. And then this is kind of like the classroom practice. These are examples of what it could look like. So again, as I'm thinking about different tools and the way I'm using them with kids, I'm thinking playgrounds and playpens and the PTD framework. And there's a ton of research and resources on DevTech's website. So we're not gonna get into this either, but just again, I wanted to point it out there. So if you're looking for a framework or something to follow as you're using EdTech tools, this is one that I highly respect, and it's research-based. Some other models that I've used as a tech integrationist, I think of SAMR. SAMR is down here. So you start with substitution and then you move up and down the ladder. The technology integration matrix, TIMS, it's more of a rubric, so it shows you where you are and gives you examples as you move more towards integration or further away. There's also the T3 framework and TPAC. So if you are new to tech integration or transitioning into the role or a classroom teacher and you're now bringing technology into your classroom but feeling like I need some guidance, where can I go for help? These are all frameworks that I've worked with in the past, and I would recommend checking out if you're looking for that.
Okay, so we're gonna, the ISTE standards for students. While you're planning your lessons and you're looking at the EdTech, your tools that you're using, you want to look at the ISTE standards for students. Those standards will help guide you and preparing the lessons. Actually, if you look at the ISTE standards for educators, those will help guide you. And then the ISTE standards for students will help you plan the necessary TEKs or standards that you need for those students in your lessons. it'll help empower them to create their own things as well.
And one more thing we want to talk about before digging into the research process is also always check when you're using a EdTech tool, what is their privacy statement? It's something that as a classroom teacher, in the beginning, I didn't think to do often, but as I got more into tech integration and learned more about it, I realized the importance of protecting our children's privacy. And there's a FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and COPA, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, as well as there's an online pledge that companies can sign dealing with student privacy. And Common Sense Media is a great place to start if you're new to thinking about privacy and EdTech tools. The privacy.commonsense.org explains it well, and then they also explain different EdTech tools and their connection with privacy. So if you've been to Best Prep in the past, will you do a little hand raise, either with the emoji or your video? Who's been to Best Prep before? Okay, so one of the things that we did in person was Bonnie would have a big piece of tape on the floor in the front of the room, and she would ask people to go stand on this piece of tape to identify where their level of technology integration was. Were they an emerging person, this was new and they didn't use it often, or were they an advanced person? So they'd go stand on that line, and that was a way for us as tech integrationists too to see, like, people in our room, where do they identify themselves with technology integration. So in the chat, we would love to see if you could type in, are you more an emerging person, middle of the road, or advanced? Where do you think you would fall on this technology integration line? So I'm seeing a lot of middle of the road, some emerging. Great. Okay. Now, while we have your attention in the chat, we would love to know, go ahead, Becky. Sorry, I just keep going.
How do you communicate with students, share student work, and foster collaboration online? So what EdTech tools are you using, or how are you communicating with your students?
Seesaw, Google Classroom, Schoology, Seesaw, email, Schoology, Hangouts, Zoom, Seesaw. Okay, awesome. So, like I mentioned before, we hope that you don't get shiny tool syndrome in our session. We hope that you'll pick something to focus on, whether it's one tool, thinking about tech integration, thinking about privacy, a mindset. Set your intention, and we'll revisit it at the end. So we'll get started with saying that Seesaw is a tool that we think could be used at each step in the inquiry-based research process, and we'll call it out each step as we go. But both Becky and I have had experience using Seesaw with students. I've used it with kids in K-5, but also my university students. I used it in my tech integration course. So it's been fun to see how different ages can use Seesaw. How have you used it, Becky?
I've used it more as a parent. So when my kids had to stay home, I was on the parent end of Seesaw.
Okay. And if you're new to Seesaw, we put some links in our presentation that we think would be helpful for you if you are looking for some PD and training.
Okay, so the first step in the research process is choose a research question. You want your students to be able to brainstorm ideas. And so we're going to show you some EdTech tools that you can use to brainstorm the idea and generate questions with your students while online. And again, we said Seesaw is one that you can use throughout. You can have students brainstorm ideas on papers and take a photo of their brainstorming. They can upload a document if they need to. You can have them draw using the draw tool. They can type into the notes, or they can record themselves brainstorming or creating their question and send it all to you through Seesaw. In the spring, I used live sessions of Google Meets to meet with my students. Actually, it was in the summer. And we did breakout sessions where we collaborated and we did mini lessons on certain themes every 2 days. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we would have a certain theme. And so you could always collaborate with your students and build research questions and brainstorm using a live session, depending on what you use or your district allows. Okay, something that is new that I really, I'm liking right now, if you have s'more, they're gonna have a new s'more field trip. So it's gonna be like being online with your students, but you can't see them and you can't hear them. You will be able to see what they're doing. So like when I was in the live session that he was holding, I would click on other tabs and he could tell that I was clicking on other tabs. The kids can do this live, and they can pause and rewind it like Edpuzzle. You can embed questions in there and the kids can answer the questions. The kids can also chat, and when they chat, you can post that question and it'll pop up at the bottom. Kids can respond with emojis if you're K through second and you don't want them typing in the chat room. What I really like is last week I was in a virtual training and he would have a presentation going and there'd be a link. And I'd say, I really want to click on that link, but I couldn't click on the link and he hadn't shared the document yet. But with s'more field trips, the kids can click on the link. So while you're working with them, they can click on that link. So this is a good way to share information with your students and brainstorm with them as well.
It's like exactly what we're doing with you right now. We're not giving you all of the links until after the presentation. So why is anyone in this session, you can type in the chat, in a district where they're thinking they don't want you to do a session live with your kids and have them show their video for any privacy reasons? So maybe they want you to be communicating with your students through a Zoom or a Hangout, but they don't want the kids to turn on their video. Has anyone heard that from their district or been in that situation?
Makes sense.
Okay.
With special education students, they're saying that they're gonna probably not want them showing their faces.
At first, ours was, for our SPED group, they were telling us, first it was no video whatsoever. And then it was, you can have your video on, but make sure you record so that there's a document of everything that really happened. It didn't happen, like if anything came up. And then what it finally settled on was video, but make sure you do not record. So that's where we're at, is we can have the full group sessions. That was another thing. At first, we weren't allowed to do group sessions because you could see the names of other SPED students.
Okay.
But now we're allowed group sessions with video, but no recording.
Okay. Yeah, so we all have some different experiences with it, and I've talked to some other friends too where they're saying no video. But so this is a resource that Becky found that might be a good happy medium for you as the teacher to still be able to connect with your students live, but it protects their privacy. When she told me about that, it made me think about Nearpod. So Nearpod is a tool that I've used in person with kids where I can have my presentation in Nearpod, and when I want to turn the slide, it turns the slide for everyone. So it was super helpful in person in kindergarten to keep everyone on the same page. But you can also build in some formative assessment questions. So if we're at the stage of choosing a research question, students could type in their research question, and then I would be able to see it in one place, and it saves the information for me to go back to later. And I noticed, I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but if anyone has, feel free to put it in the chat. They have the live session plus Zoom feature. So instead of being together in person, using Nearpod live in a Zoom room. So you could deliver your mini lesson over Nearpod and then have students respond with what their research question is. And we, again, put some helpful resources in here around Nearpod if you have never used it. They have a free version and a paid version. The free version doesn't give you a lot of space, but you can use it for maybe 1 or 2 presentations. It's about all I have.
Okay, so the second step in the research process is search for information. So how are we going to have students identify keywords to drive the research and use and select reliable sources? We're going to have them determine and take notes. How are we going to do that? So what EdTech tool can we use for them to search for the information, or for us to give them a way to search for the information? Again, with Seesaw, you can do every single step. So you can build a choice board for them. So it'll have the link there and they can just go straight to the place to find the research. So we have PebbleGo, Tumble Books, EdTech, and Britannica Kids. And then you can always embed your public library or your school library resources there as well.
And if you are new to Seesaw and choice boards, I just did a course last week on the community.seesaw.me website where I learned how to build choice boards with some of their new features. And Chris was the person that created this training, and Chris is out of Minnesota, so I thought that was pretty neat. Seesaw is a worldwide thing, and we have someone in Minnesota creating PD with them, and it took maybe an hour. So if you're new to Seesaw and you're thinking choice boards sound interesting, check that out. I have it linked, or this is how I accessed it, community.seesaw.me. So like Becky mentioned, PebbleGo is a great resource. So my bias will stand out here because I work for Capstone now, and I work for them because I think they're a great company. And I used PebbleGo as a database when I was a tech integrationist in St. Cloud. So before I worked for them, I used their products. So we have PebbleGo, which was really made for kindergarten through second grade, and PebbleGo Next, which was made for second, third grade on up. And if you'd like to try it because you've never tried it before, you can use username professional development and password summer 2020, and you can have access to all of our stuff on PebbleGo and PebbleGo Next until the end of September if you want to try it out. And this is what PebbleGo looks like. This is why I loved it before and continue to love it, because it's a database for kids to do research, but it's really geared towards young children. So it's meant to be helpful to them and not distracting. So there's text, but it's all read to them. If they want, they can click a button to have it read to them, and it's a person reading it, not an auto computer generated voice. There's videos to help them see what it looks like or sounds like. There are connected eBooks. So if they get really into a topic, let's say about lightning, and they want to keep learning about storms, it'll give them some eBooks to read about storms. And then across the top here, there are different tabs. So it really chunks the information and makes it easy for them to comprehend and digest. So this was the project I did. It was on Arctic foxes, or I guess it was animal research, but the one that really stood out to me was her project on an Arctic fox. So we did the research in PebbleGo, we took our notes on paper, and then we did our project on a video tool, which we'll show you in a little bit. And then Capstone Interactive eBooks, this is another Capstone product, but they're eBooks, and you have the option to have it read to you, or you can read it yourself. And if you haven't used an ebook platform yet, but you're curious as to what it could look like, you can also use ours. So it's the username is professional development 2, and the password is summer 20. So that would get you in now if you want to start trying it out. But what's really cool in Minnesota, so if you're, I think it's Minnesota, maybe Wisconsin and North Dakota, but for sure Minnesota, if you're a resident here, Minitex purchased the database in PebbleGo for animals and biographies. So all of our students in Minnesota get to use it for free. Your school district doesn't have to pay for it to use those two modules. But if you want to use more, then there's the pricing would be discounted because you get those for free. I'm not in sales and I'm not doing a great job explaining that, but if you want to get your school started and get your account set up before somebody contacts you, you can contact Mackenzie. She's our person in Minnesota, and she can help you get started with that. She could also help you understand it a little bit more if you have questions. Go ahead, Becky.
My district has PebbleGo, but I like to use EPIC. EPIC is another place where students can get books, or you can build a collection of books for your students, and then they can access it. It is free. The stories can be read to them if you choose a story for them to have it read aloud. And I see that there are people in the chat that use EPIC, and I love it too. And so you can make a collection of books for your students, just like in PebbleGo. And this is another resource for you to use.
One thing I'm going to point out with EPIC is check out their privacy policy and make sure that it's in alignment with your school district. It is a free resource, and whenever something is free, I always wonder, how is it free? Why is it free? So I also used to use EPIC until I learn more about their privacy and how they handle information. So just make sure it aligns. Sorry.
The third step in the research, inquiry-based research, is organize information. We want our students to select research format components, organize the information into categories, and use notes and organizers to paraphrase their information. So let's see some EdTech tools that we can use to help with the third step. Again, Seesaw can be used in all the steps, but you can upload your graphic organizers. And when you upload the graphic organizers, you can always differentiate. So maybe these students need a different graphic organizer than other ones. And so you can choose on those students and you can give them those graphic organizers and give the other students the ones that they need. And you can have, with Seesaw, you can have them draw, you can have them write, you can have them record what they want in each part of the graphic organizer. So it gives them different options. I taught 5th grade for a long time, and so we use Google Classroom, and so my students would share their information, organize their information in a Google Doc or in a PowerPoint, and then they would upload that information. That way I could see it.
Another tool that you could use for organizing information is Buncee. With the thumbs up, hand raise feature, let's see who's used Buncee here. Has anyone used Buncee? Buncee was a relatively new tool for me, but I learned about it in a webinar that Shannon McClintock-Miller did. And she used Buncee as a research journal for her students to collect their information and organize it in there as they were doing a project with PebbleGo. So I linked her how-to here if you want to learn more. Up here is what Buncee looks like, and it just made it like, it was another tool, but it also had some fun graphics and looked visually appealing the way she had her set up.
Okay, the fourth step is prepare the final research. So this is where we want them to revise and edit and start building their research paper. And we're gonna share some more EdTech tools.
So paper, project, whatever type of presentation you want kids to do to show you what they know. One tool that both Becky and I have used is Scratch Junior, and you can use it on an iPad. You can also use it on a Chromebook. And Scratch Junior is one of the first tools that you can use to help kids understand coding and computer science in a very developmentally appropriate way for young children to learn. So if they were doing a research project about a farm, they could build a project here, maybe showing the different landscape of a farm or the animals that live on a farm or the habitat or the life cycle of animals that are on a farm. They could do this by creating a story in Scratch Junior and animating characters and bringing in their voice and text. Do you want to add anything else, Becky?
No, you did great.
Okay, awesome. PicCollage is an app that I used on an iPad. So there's like Pick Kids, PicCollage EDU was the latest version of the app that I used, and that one, it had special pricing. So if you had iPads, they did the volume purchase pricing. So after you bought 20 of them, then you got them at half price. So that's the app that we used for it. But it made it really easy for kids to take pictures or bring in pictures and text. So we had these sensory bins, and we were doing research. Well, actually, let me ask you, what do you think we were doing our research on? Go ahead and put it in the chat. If you look at the picture here on the right, what do you think our research was around? Plants? Yes, you're right. We were talking about plants, and we were talking about where plants live in different parts of plants. So we had them in the bins, and the kids could play with them and experience them. But then this is something that we had them do. We had them take a picture of the plants, label it, and then put it into Seesaw, and then we could share it with their families and their peers. We could practice our vocabulary words. Has anyone used an app similar to this, but not this one? So this is PicCollage EDU. Have you used an app where you can take pictures, bring in text, make collages if you'd like? Go ahead and put it in the chat if you have. Okay, I'm going to keep going, but if you're typing, still press enter and share it with us. Another app that I used was I used Yak It Kids, but that was maybe like 7 years ago. And so Yak It Kids, the last time I looked, they hadn't really updated their app very well or kept up with it. So instead of using Yak It Kids, I would recommend using ChatterPix. And ChatterPix right here, these are the steps for using ChatterPix. It's really neat. So you bring in a picture, and it could be a picture that kids draw on paper and then they take a picture of it, or you could save it from a platform like PebbleGo or just Google search. And then you get to draw a mouth anywhere on the page. So if you want the fox to talk, you get to draw a mouth by the fox's mouth. And then you record yourself so the fox will talk, and the fox can then tell us information about itself, whatever we were researching. And you can put in some fun stickers and whatnot. But I have a video in here that you can watch if you'd like later about the Arctic fox done by a kindergartner sharing their research with us.
Angie, there's a question. Is ChatterPix mainly for iPads?
I used it with iPads, but has anyone used it with anything else?
And there's another question. Besides iPads, do you have any devices that your students can easily use to take videos, record, or take photos?
So we've used I've used Chromebooks and iPads in elementary. The Chromebooks, we had a variety of different kinds of Chromebooks, but the ones that the kids really found easier were the ones with the touchpad.
They're saying
Becky, do you have anything?
Sorry, I'm Val. I can turn my video on. I'm just curious because it would be really fun to get, something small like a phone or whatever, where the kids are used to probably using a device similar to that, and then being able to take it outside or record themselves in the hallway, and versus a big bulky computer where they're, especially for younger children. So I was just wondering if anybody in their district has something that's small and you just, click it into your computer really quickly and get that picture, and I don't know.
Oh, are you talking about, so we also used iPod touches, but we had them before the iPad came around. That's why we had them at that time. But are you talking maybe like a flip video
Just
camera,
almost like a, like a like an old school camera, like a digital camera, something that doesn't have all the apps that needs to be updated, and it's just the hardware. And then, let's say you would plug it into your computer and the pictures are right there,
Has anyone done that or worked on a project like that? Okay, well, if you're thinking but you just don't want to talk, go ahead and type and we'll keep going. So we'll watch the chat. And then Toontastic. Again, in the chat, if you've used Toontastic, let us know how. But I used Toontastic with some 4th graders, and they had to do an action research project about something like a problem they saw in their school and how they could fix it. So they went around and did their research. They asked questions, they looked online, and this group of 4th grade girls decided that they think that only the older kids should be able to ride in the back of the bus for safety reasons. So they created a Toontastic presentation and had to defend their reasoning. So it helped within the app. It helps kids tell a story because it has a story arc to the way it's created. They get to pick different settings, and they can also pick their characters or create characters to tell the story. And then it puts it into a video. And now Google owns Toontastic and it's free. So you could do it on an iPad or you could do it on a Chromebook or a computer or a laptop. Okay, step 5.
So the final step in the research in the inquiry-based research is to present and share the final research. That's the most exciting part, is when you finally get to share what you've done with everybody. And so we could have students record something, we could have them talk, but we're going to show you different ways. And so Seesaw, again, is a great source. We had students upload a PowerPoint, and then when they had their PowerPoint uploaded in Seesaw, we had them use the record tool and record themselves presenting their final project.
We should also add that Seesaw has different privacy features. So like when we were in the classroom and the iPad stayed in the classroom, we had it so that kids could share their work and other kids could see it and comment it. Something that Seesaw came out with is Seesaw for for using at home and distance learning. So they put in some new privacy features to make it so that your kid's work stays private and other kids don't see it. And if I'm explaining this in a way that you're like, oh, she should have said it different because I do this and I know, go ahead and put that in the chat. I don't want to misspeak, but they have been very responsive to distance learning and privacy. So we also added Dash. So again, I love computer science and helping kids dig in at an early age. And I used to use the physical robot Dash for kids to tell a story. So they had to go through everything and write it out like you see down here. And then they would physically program their robot in the class and have Dash tell the story. But now, if we're doing distance learning and kids aren't in the classroom together, Wonder Workshop just came out with their Dash's Neighborhood. So it's a virtual platform. So it's right here. It's kind of small to see, but you can program Dash on your computer and you don't have to have the physical Dash. But that's what Becky just was at last week. So I'll let you tell a little bit more about Wonder Workshop.
Okay, so what was nice about Dash's Neighborhood is that it also has lessons that the kids can go through. And if they can't progress on a lesson and they're doing bad, it pops up their answer plus the right answer, and that way you can help and support them. The students, if they do have a Dash at home, they can connect their Dash to Dash's Neighborhood. And so they could still code physically on their own and then upload the project. And they can just upload it with a little share code that comes up. And so that would be another way that students can do that.
Yeah, we'll keep going because we only have a few minutes left. Flipgrid, go ahead.
If you haven't used Flipgrid, Flipgrid's a great way for students to present their information. So you add a grid for the presentation, and you can give the kids up to 10 minutes to present their research project. So they can record themselves, and if they don't want to see their face, they can put an emoji over their face. And this is another way for students to peer review or share feedback on their peers' presentation.
Another app I've used is called Book Creator, and you can use Book Creator on your iPad or a Chromebook. And it allows students to bring in text and pictures. They can record their voice reading it, and it has the experience of a book. As you can see right here, there's like a little arrow, so you can turn the page and it will go through with the students. In some classes, we only had the free version where we just had access to one book. In another class, we purchased Book Creator, so kids could create multiple books. But it was a fun way for kids to present their work.
If you want your students to present their work and you want it to be, oh my gosh, I'm going blank, a composition, okay? You can use KidBlog. So the kids start typing their project and they can upload a picture and they type their project there, and you can have it where the teacher gets the information and then they share it where everybody can see it, or it just automatically goes up there, and then students can give feedback on the presentation right below it. So you can see that in the picture to the right. And then on the picture on the left, it's everybody's project, and they have their own little sections. That way the kids could go and click on which project they would want to read.
And fun fact, I'm pretty sure KidBlog started in Minnesota. Anyone else know that? And Flipgrid that we just talked about, Minnesota's a pretty great place. Anyone? Yeah. Okay. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So we just went through the 5 steps for inquiry-based research, and we just want to check in with you and see, did you pick your intention at the beginning and did you stick with it? Are you going to now, after our presentation today, go off and try 1 or 2 tools? Are you going to think deeper about tech integration? Was privacy something that you maybe weren't thinking about before, but you're going to start thinking about now? Or are you going to think about how to do some more playground mindset? We'd love to see what your intention was and if it changed at all from the beginning to the end. So go ahead and put that in the chat. And then as you're doing that, we just want to say thank you for joining us. And it's 12:15. Mary, is there anything we need to tell them at the end?
Not that I'm aware of, other than I'm assuming you're going to share this. The slides will be shared. There it is. And have a great rest of your tech integration workshop.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. I just put in a link to the presentation.
Oh,
It's
Bonnie
also
says please complete the survey.
Okay. Please complete the survey. Thank you, Bonnie. We'll stick around for just a few more minutes. If you have questions and you want to ask us, you could unmute yourself and ask, or send it via chat or private chat. It's up to you, but we'll stick around in here if you have some questions that you want to ask. Seeing a lot of the takeaways are just sticking to a few tools and thinking about playgrounds. Bonnie, while you're in here, where is the attendance button on the agenda for the session?
It is, I'll go look. It should be, it's called Mark My Attendance, and it's right below the listing of the title, Primary and Ed Tools. It's right below that, before the documents for this session. Mark My Attendance is kind of on the right-hand side of the screen. It's a rectangular button.
So if it's not there for somebody, what should they do?
Then what they should do is they should send a message to my colleague, which I recognize it isn't easy.
Uh-oh, I think she just froze.
Put her though. Again,
Yeah, it's
that's
not
not
there
easy,
for
but we'll get
Joe.
that.
Yeah.
And you're gonna, and we're gonna do this on your honor. So sorry that it's not there, but my colleague Jenna is tracking that at GALE.
Okay, so actually quite a few people have privately messaged me now and said they don't have access to that button. So you should send a message to jgale@bestprep.org and let that person know that you attended. It'll be an on your honor for this session. Any other questions? Bonnie, can you just go into badges?
You can go into badges, absolutely, and that all that's on your honor as well. So yep, go ahead and go into badges and click on all the different things that you've done, all the different activities. And somebody's already got, last time I checked, someone already had 16 of the 100 points. So yeah, jump into badges and you can click those away.
Oh, it just showed up. So if you're not seeing the button, go ahead and do a page refresh and see if it'll show up now. Maybe we're just too early with it.
That could be, and actually when I looked like earlier on the leaderboard for badging, I had to do a refresh there to get that to pop in. So yes, try that.
And my group was Sour Patch Kids. Is it candy themed online this year?
There is, Angie, yeah, but we have no Sour Patch this year.
Ah. And I would eat them along with people in my session until my tongue would just be raw from the sourness. It's always the best.
Sadly, that is one of the things that we can't distribute candy this year. Sadly, we didn't mail candy packs to people. Maybe that's what y'all have to do is go shopping and hold up your candy bags or something, logos or something, and list them later.
Or maybe make like a Zoom background of your candy.
Yeah.
Early in the presentation, you were talking about the playground versus playpen. And I know Lab Robotics sent out an email because Marina is going to do a virtual presentation. So I'm going to share the link so people can register.
Awesome. Yeah, so Dr. Marina Bears is the person that runs the DevTech research group and was my boss when I was out in Boston. And I highly respect her and her research. It's really changed the way I think about EdTech in general, but specifically computer science too. And she, like Becky said, is doing a webinar coming up. So if you're looking for some more PD opportunities, watch for that, that information.
Becky, are you on Twitter?
I am. Well, I'll type that in there.
Thank you.
So if you don't have any other questions, you're free to head off to your next area. And thank you for coming. It was our first time presenting together, so it was pretty exciting for us.
You did great.
Woohoo! I think we'll continue. We'll try another one.
Please do.
Hi, Jennifer. It was nice to see you too from over Zoom instead of in person. Ooh, cool. Thanks, Joe. It's very, very kind. We hope that we have useful information.
Mhm.
If attendance isn't working for you and you've refreshed your page and you still don't see attendance, then you should just go ahead and email. I will put the email in again if it's not working for you. So here it is again for attendance. Oh, Mary did it too.
You were slightly faster.
Speedy. So there should be the mark my attendance button. And if you're not seeing that, then go ahead and do the email, but try the button first.
Was there attendance for the cafe this morning? Lucinda's asking.
That was on your honor. That's a badging item and it's on your honor.
So Mary, if I wanted to share some of my artifacts with you,
Yes.
I'd be able to.
For your ISTE certification?
Oh, sure. Sure. Let me put my email in the chat.
Thank you.
Yes, you totally can. Like I said, I'm plugging away at mine right now and trying to get it. Ours are due August 6th, and trying to avoid asking for more time, but it's been a terrifically busy summer for me.
Yeah.
So
In between, last week I was in between, I got off the phone with Angie and then I had 10 minutes to go to my next my virtual meeting, and my principal calls and says, I want you to redo our school website. And then I would every year have a website. And I go, you know, every year at the beginning of the year, we have to make our own website. So I'm pretty sure teachers have their own, but I'll go ahead and do that for you. But I'm going to need time. I have ISTE certification, a virtual presentation, virtual class all week, and we're going on vacation.
I know. It's like, are you kidding me? I know they keep assigning and stuff too, and I'm like, people.
Oh, and I'm doing Canvas training because we're going to their LMS.
Yeah, I'm doing training we have a business analytics application for schools, and so I'm doing instruction on that now to administrators and principals and all those people, and it's like, oh my Lord.
Okay, I'm curious if Molly, Tron, Amy, or Lucinda have questions for us, or no? Okay, you're free to go and do whatever is next for you. Our session's done. We're just waiting to see if there's any questions.
Okay. So I tried to send that email to attendance, and then it didn't like that.
Right.
It came back.
It came back to you from that email address?
Yeah.
Yeah, the attendance, yeah, same for me.
The to field was not recognized.
Right.
jgale@bestprep.org. Okay, let me take yours down. Amy and Tron,
Right.
I will take them down and I will make sure Jenna gets that information. I'm apologize that you're having this trouble and it's odd to me, but I'm not surprised. And
So
I don't think you're the only one.
In addition to the badging, or is the badging, is that good enough? Because I entered that. Does it have to be?
The way the reason and the way we're tracking attendance is for CEUs. I'll tell you, it's not going to be like a perfect track on a CEU perspective. We're going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but that's one of the ways that we're using that. And it just helps us know like who's logged in on any particular day.
Okay.
So I will get you both in. I will let Jenna know that you were here as a part of this session.
All right. And I
So
just tried it
no
again
problem.
without the word attendance, and that worked. So I don't know
Okay.
if it went through, but
Good.
okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye.
Okay,
All
now
right.
it's just the four of us.
That was great, you guys. It really was. I picked up stuff there too.
It was our first time together, and I think you did just fine. We'll do it again. Yes.
Yes.
Do you need anything else from us for today?
There's lots of things I would take from you, but there's nothing I need.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Well, it was good to see you, Angie, again, and
Yeah,
nice
you
to
too,
meet you,
Mary.
Becky. That's awesome. All
I'll
right.
be reaching out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
good to
Really
see you, Bonnie.
good to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Bye bye.
You too.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.